Hey everyone, welcome back to our last video in our color mixing series. Today I'm going to show you how to mix blacks, make colors darker and lighter, so let's jump right in. Okay, so this is our last video in our color mixing series, and I thought we'd finish with the color black because that is one color we do not have in this palette. Now, personally, I usually work with an actual black paint. I like Mars Black from Winsor Newton. But if you really want to work with a limited palette, you can create your own black. It may not be as intense as you like, but it definitely can be beautiful with certain other colors having like undertones in your black. So I'm going to show you a couple ways that you can mix blacks today, as well as showing you how to darken and lighten colors without using black or white paint, which I think is important in watercolor. I never use white paint. The only time I ever use any white paint is when I use Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White ink. I'll use it sometimes for like a little bit of a highlight on top, but I never use it for mixing to make a color lighter. So let's just jump into the video. Today I am using my Etchr Lab Cold Press Watercolor Sketchbook. I have my Winsor Newton Cotman watercolors in my palette. My colors are Dioxazine Purple, Permanent Rose, Turquoise, Ultramarine, Hooker's Green Dark, Sap Green, Cadmium Yellow, and Cadmium Red Deep. The paintbrush I'm also using is this number 6 round brush by Princeton. It's a Princeton snap brush, water and paper towel, and now we're ready to go. Okay, so mixing blacks. Essentially, you kind of just want to mix all the colors together in different combinations to make different shades of black. Now, looking at our colors, you want to pick out some of the darkest colors to mix. So immediately, I go for Dioxazine Purple. This is one of our darkest colors. And I also like my blacks to have a bit of a purple or blue undertone. So let's get into our ultramarine blue as well. So we have a nice dark color. Now, like we do with our mixing browns, we want to hit up its contrasting or complementary color to kind of tone down that blue and make it a neutral color. So let's try adding some yellow. Actually, I'm just going to throw it here. Maybe a little bit more, because that will neutralize that purple. Let's throw in some red over here. See how that helps. Then we'll mix it all together. And I think Hooker's Green Dark. All right, so let's start adding the Hooker's Green into this mix. And if you remember in our gray video, if you mix equal parts of Dioxazine Purple and Hooker's Green, you get a gray, and gray is just a lighter version of black. So we'll do that mixture right after to see if we can get a nice darker black, but that will also help with this mix. Okay, let's add in some red and yellow. Here we go. So it's kind of like a grayish color, and to make it darker, you just need to add more pigment, more paint. Okay, because the more water you have, the more, the lighter it will be. Okay, and then you just kind of need to look at it. So let's swatch this to start. So it's a little bit on the purpley side. I'm gonna try and neutralize it with a bit of green. See if that helps. It's a bit better. Okay, let's just keep adding more colors. It's a bit darker. Okay, and they look a little just like really dark grays. Let's try that purple and green mixture like we did for the gray tutorial, but just a lot more pigment, so it's a lot darker. So I'm gonna go with as much darkness as I can and try and make a half and half combination. If you see a bit too much purple in it, you need a bit more green. If you see a bit too much green in it, you need a bit more purple. There we go. That's a nice one too. Okay, let's try and add yellow to that mix and see what that does. There's another black. Add a bit more purple to it. A bit more green. Okay, so essentially we're just making really dark grays. So you may not get a true black doing this, but you can get as close to black as you like. Let's try and just add some of our other colors in here to see what else we can get. Turquoise. Okay, that makes it a bit more blue. Let's add more purple. Add more yellow. Well, there we go. That's a nice black too. A bit more on the bluer side. And remember, if you just use more pigment, it will be darker. And then in contrast to if you're using a lighter color, it will look black. It may not look really black right here, but it will in contrast to, let's say, just a swatch of yellow, right? You put it right beside each other. That definitely looks black compared to the yellow. Okay, so those are some ways to mix black. Now, you got to keep just mixing around and just see what you can make with all these colors. Try mixing every single one of them and see what works for you, but just keep playing around and don't get frustrated. Okay, so the second thing that I wanted to talk to you about in this video is making colors lighter and darker. So traditionally, like with acrylic paints, if you want to make a color darker, you would add black, or if you wanted to make a lighter color, you would typically add white paint. Watercolor is different. Watercolor is a transparent medium, which means the water kind of acts like a white paint. So let's give you an example here. So here's turquoise. I'm gonna do a really saturated dark turquoise. So that means lots and lots of paint. So we have a nice bright blue. Okay, and the more paint you use, the darker it will be, the more vibrant it will be. So we have a darker blue here. Now, the way I like to lighten up colors is I dip it in my water, run it against the side, and make it a bit lighter. Again, to make it even lighter, I just flicked paint all over my paper. It's all good. Again, to be even lighter. And you can essentially get these pastel colors without adding white paint. Okay, and this works for any color. Let's do another swatch. And let's do pink because we haven't done pink, much of pink in this series. Okay, so I'm adding lots and lots of pink to get a nice dark, vibrant pink. Again, using that dip and, whoopsie, that dip method, just dip it in, run it against the side, and you get these really nice light colors. Okay, so you can do it that way. Usually that's how I lighten a color. If I say I want a light wash of something, I'll go into pink and then I'll just like swish it around in here and then I'll paint straight from that light color. Another way to do it though is to take your color, put it on your palette, and then just add water and you can get your light wash that way. The only thing with this, and this has to do with water control that I want to mention, is that say you're lightening up your color and you're adding all of this water here and then you go painting straight away, you're gonna have tons of water on your brush. So I suggest anytime you do that, you're adding lots and lots of water to create a light wash, wash your brush off, just dip it in your jar, dry it off first on your paper towel, then pick up that color. So you're only picking up a little bit and your brush isn't being overwhelmed with tons and tons of water. It's a lot easier to manage your water control that way. Okay, so that's how to make a color lighter. This is how to make it darker. You're just using more paint, or not much darker, but more vibrant, more pigmented. Now, if you want to make a color darker, we're going to refer back to our color wheel here. So if you want to make a color slightly darker, add its contrasting color. Not a lot, just a little. It will make it darker. So let's have red, for example. Here's red on its own. Okay. I'm going to make a really, really light wash of red over here. Okay, there's our light red. And now let's make a darker red by adding its contrasting color. So here's our red in our palette. I'm going to wash off my brush. Then I'm going to go into green because it's the contrasting color. Add a bit more red maybe. And here we go, we have our dark red. Okay, and that will work for any color. You want to darken up your yellow. Let's do our yellow here, natural yellow. Really, really, really light yellow. Let's put it in our palette. Add a tad bit of purple. You have that rusty kind of dark yellow ochre color. Okay, goes for any color. So that is also how you darken a color. And that's perfect if you're trying to implement shadows in your work. So if you're painting an apple, let's say, excuse me. Okay, I always start off with a light wash. A little streak of red in there. Start off with your light wash. Using a small brush, so I need a bit more water. Okay, always start off with your light wash, which is your lightest color. Okay, then go into your medium color. So let's put on our medium red. I'm gonna leave a highlighted area for this apple. So like right over here, the light's hitting over here. Put in your medium red, which is just the color with just a bit more pigment than water. Okay, and then as we get to the shadow area, grab your red, grab its contrasting color, and place in those shadows. Maybe a bit more red. Okay, and instead of using black, it just adds more of a natural shadow color. Because I find that black can wash out that red or that color that you're trying to use. And this still maintains that redness, but it just makes it darker, okay? So there you go. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about with the lighter color, I just wanted to give you an example of what it's like to paint with white paint. So here I have a little pod of Chinese white paint from my Winsor Newton palette. And I just want to try and mix it with some colors and just show you the difference. So let me actually mix it with our turquoise like we did up here. And I'm going to show you the difference of working with white paint versus working with just water to lighten a color. Okay. It's a lot more opaque in my opinion. And to me, it almost looks a little bit faker. It doesn't have that nice transparent feel like just regular watercolor. When you mix in the white paint, it just looks a bit more, because you're still maintaining that same color, but this just looks a bit more darker and opaque to me. I don't know if that makes sense. Let me try it with the pink to show you. Okay, pink in my palette. Grab some white paint. It's just a bit more opaque. So also, instead of using white and buying an extra tube of color or, you know, an extra pod, you don't have to, you can just use water. So that's kind of the difference. That's using white paint and that's just using water. It does the same kind of thing, but I think this is a bit more opaque when using white. So there you go. There is my little lesson on how to darken and lighten your watercolors as well as mixing blacks. Thank you all so much for watching my video. I really hope you liked it and I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and follow me on Instagram and Facebook for even more. Have a great day, guys. Bye.